Hey guys, welcome back to this video podcast. Now, in this episode I'd like to talk to you about how you can begin to learn, absorb and figure out new information. So this is really about maybe you're learning a subject or you're wanting to get better at mathematics or trying to learn to write better, to spell better, whatever it is. I'm going to give you some great tips in how you can actually change your learning strategy. You see, I was personally very bad at school. I really struggled to learn and absorb information. I barely got through school and I dropped out of college, and it wasn't because I didn't have the skill set. It wasn't because I didn't have the internal resources. It was ultimately because I didn't have the right learning strategy. You see, I'm far more of a kinesthetic person, therefore I go through more feelings. Now, if you try to figure out how to spell a word through feelings, then you're going to probably have a hard time trying to spell, or if you do it through maths or whatever it is, when you're doing things through feelings, that's going to be quite hard. The best way of learning new information is to do it visually. Now, even if you're doing it visually, right now, you can also improve upon this as well by changing your association to certain things, which I'll be talking about after that. So, here's the thing. When you are spelling through sounds or feelings, it's going to be very hard. Same thing for learning new information in general, or trying to figure out information. So the key is for you to be able to change your modality. So we're changing of the modality of our feelings or our sounds, moving it into images. And that way your mind will see a new world. You see, if you can imagine you could only have a sense of touch, you will see the world or feel the world in a certain way. But as soon as you add the dimension of seeing or hearing, you ultimately transform your whole perception of the world around you. Now let's take that on an unconscious level. Let's just say you were taught just kinesthetically. You're only trying to figure out that mathematic equation, or how to spell a word, or absorb some quotes or stats, whatever it may be for you, through that one modality. But when we open it up to our visual, we are able to see far more, and more importantly, the visual is where we get the results when it comes to learning. You see, you can recall things very easily through pictures. You can have a memory in your mind and it automatically brings the sounds and the feelings back with you. So visually is always, I would say, probably the best modality to start learning information. So let's just say you have some mathematics equations that you need to either learn, absorb, and you're just struggling with it. Well, you change those numbers into representations which you can easily figure out and know the meaning for. In fact, Richard Branson of Virgin, he had a real bad time at school learning when it came to mathematics. So what he used to do, he used to in his spare time as a child begin to, I think it was like having birds, like budgies, and selling them. And he realized he was very good at maths when he thought about the equation in, if I sell X amount of budgies, it will mean X amount of pounds. You see, he was taking something which was just a number and then putting a meaning or association to it which he could actually absorb. So your task is to learn new information, is to make visual representations and associations which will allow you to recall things far more easily at an unconscious level. I mean, think about this as well. Your unconscious mind runs from symbols. Everything around in our world is pretty much symbolic. Your name written out is a set of symbols. When you sleep at night, your unconscious mind is kind of going through these dreams, and they have meanings to them very often. Usually about what you're going through, or the kind of thoughts you had in your unconscious mind is trying to figure out the information. So, symbols or symbolic meanings have meanings when you put the meaning attached to them. So that means that, a lot of meanings there, right? What can happen is, when we change the figure, or you change the word into a colour, and you break, let's take even like a word that you can't spell. You can take the word, break it down into syllables, and then change the colour of each one of the syllables. Therefore, you're breaking down and you're seeing the word visually. When you see it visually in your mind, you are able to actually see the word. And therefore, you will not forget it. And in fact, when I do this with people who can't spell a word, I will train them to be able to spell the word backwards within about 2 or 3 minutes, simply by changing their learning pattern from kinesthetic or auditory into visual. When they see it visually and then break it down into small blocks, they'll be able to go back and forth all the time. That starts the new habit of learning, by changing the modality of how we learn. So we want to be able to change our meaning to the things we're trying to learn. So if you make them symbolic and you put an association to them, your unconscious mind will recall them as and when you need them, rather than struggling to find out what it was what you learned last week. Same thing when it goes to your association to certain things. A lot of people can have a bad time at school. So when they think of, say, mathematics, they have the association of stress, anxiety, worry and doubt. Well, the key is to be able to change your association to the experience or the subject. So what's happened for some people, because they've had that traumatic past around a certain subject, every time they think of maths, for example, they'll have that feeling of dread, because they felt that dread in the past when they were younger. Well, now as an adult, or even if you're a young adult watching this right now, or even a child watching this, you can change that by changing your association. And here's what you do. I want you to consider something that you do which you know you're great at. So it could be maybe a sport, it could be a hobby, it could be a passion of yours, it could be anything that you just know you're very good at, that you're capable of doing it and you don't really have too much problems. It could be a challenge at times, but you feel more than competent in your own ability to figure out the situation, or just to do what you do and enjoy the process despite the challenge. Now as you think of that in your mind, I know you're going to have an image in your mind, or a visual representation of how you associate it with it. So it'll be a picture, maybe it'll be colour or black and white, it'll be a movie or still, it'll be far away from you, so it could be way out there, or it could be right up close to you. That internal representation will have a meaning to it, because when you think about that, the chances are you're going to have some good feelings on the inside, where you feel calm, you feel excited about this thing that you do in your life. There may even be some sounds there as well, so the 3 modalities are the visual, the auditory and the kinesthetic. So as you park that to one side for a moment, now consider your association, your relationship, your internal relationship to, say, for example, maths, or learning a new language, or whatever it may be for you. And notice how you also have a representation to this, how the pictures are. Is it further away, closer to you? Is it bigger, smaller, black and white, darker? And just notice the differences. Notice the difference in the qualities. Notice the difference in the sounds and the feelings. And then what I want you to do is take that representation in your mind of how you experience, say, for example, maths, which gives you that feeling of dread or confusion, and we take that image and we move it into the representation of the example that you do absolutely brilliantly, or you enjoy, you thrive in that hobby, or whatever that passion may have been. So we're changing the association from one to the other. That way, your unconscious mind is now storing and categorizing that maths into the representation and the relationship to the thing that you enjoy, therefore changing the meaning of how you experience it. So once you move that all over, changing all the qualities and the things that you enjoy, you lock that in place in your mind. You just kind of lock it all the way around, lock in the feelings, and they will stay there. It's like you're teaching your unconscious mind, not this, but actually this. This is how I want to see the world when it comes to the subject I'm trying to learn, or whatever it is for you personally. You can really adapt this for many different situations. Do it from people you dislike but you want to like, or vice versa. You can literally just change your images in your mind, and it will have to change your relationship to it, because your unconscious mind categorizes these things. It's like how you know you like some food and some foods you dislike. They'll have a different meaning and a different association. When you change the meaning to the different association, you'll change your relationship to it. So a recap of this video is that we can change the relationship to the subjects that we dislike into associations of the things that we want to like, or that we presently like. So we're actually having that feeling. When we think of that old thing, we now see it like this. That will become the habit. The other thing is changing your modality of learning. So therefore, you're taking how you presently learn and moving into images. Especially if you do that by looking up. So there might be a mathematical equation and you're putting up here into visual and you're changing the representation. You're even changing the meaning, like Richard Branson did with numbers, putting it into budgies and to money. Therefore, it's easily able to be digested consciously, but also deep within your unconscious mind, and therefore creating a new learning strategy. So I hope that helps, and I'll be doing many more of these videos. So watch out for those, and I will speak to you very, very soon. Many thanks and goodbye.